The whole world had fallen into war, and the Archknights petitioned me many times to stop. I ignored them, as I knew they had no right to intervene in matters regarding nations. They continued to bother me, eventually assigning a personal counselor from their ranks. I called him Puppy. The continued resources that maintained my armies were more crucial at that time than ever before. This was the reason why I reacted so strongly when Daybreak, one of the larger Hamaran cities, rebelled. I needed all my people to obey me and support the war effort, but in the rebellion they did the opposite. And just as if they were fighting for the other side, they had made themselves my enemies. Indeed, their rebellion broke the crucial supply chain to one of the main fronts, causing a massive defeat and withdrawal. Thousands of men died, and you can guess who I blamed. I pulled out 4 of my annihilators from the front lines and traveled with them to Daybreak. Once we arrived, in rage and madness, I commanded them to level the city with everyone inside. I murdered over 1 million men, women, and children that fall. That unspeakable act of genocide was the beginning of the end. At the time I issued the order to destroy Daybreak, the Archon who accompanied me, Puppy, could not believe what he had heard. It was then that Puppy realized the truth, that I was a madman. He attacked me with a sun-forged sword, whose hiding place, to this day, I still cannot discern. I was suspicious of everyone but my most trusted servants at that time, so I had expected this betrayal and had made preparations. The knight was quickly run through by several shot spikes. Amazingly, he began to heal, and still advanced to kill me. I fought him sword to sword with Imperius. Even while healing from his wounds, the knight was easily twice as fast as a regular man, but I was a master of the sword and took his head after a great exchange of blows. The countless discontents throughout my empire saw what I did to those who rebelled, and so they didn't dare do so openly. Instead, they acted with more subtlety. Rhaeton Leusa had grown in great influence over the years preceding the Daybreak massacre, but after that, something changed. So many things in my empire stopped running smoothly, with breaks in supply lines, production problems, and attacks on government buildings and barracks, all being run by a group of underground rebels. I later learned that all these efforts were organized by this one man, Rhaeton, who had become wholly consumed by his opposition to me. Despite the bounty I put on his head and the men I sent to hunt him out, I never found him. Instead, most of my men came back dead. I pressed on through my setbacks, hunting out the rebels while waging war, eventually defeating Xantium, Leontah, and Tulzin, with Lorraine and Orden being the last nations that held out against my might. It was then that the Arch Order of Light finally declared war on the Dawn Empire, decreeing that I was a threat to the peoples of the world. This was unprecedented, for until then, the Knights had never taken sides in disputes between nations. After the Knights declared war, things changed drastically for me. No one really understands how powerful the Knights are. I certainly underestimated them after killing my advisor Knight Puppy, but apparently Puppy wasn't particularly strong. In one battle, a single knight defeated a whole fleet, summoning an apocalyptic storm and calling down lightning that utterly devastated my ships. Once the knights joined the resistance, who were well prepared and equipped, I was beaten back again and again. Seeing the open defiance of the knights gave the oppressed people confidence, as many nations had been waiting for this very moment, particularly Frey, and they all rose up in open rebellion, even my own Hamara. Even as Banadar, my most loyal allied nation, withdrew its support, though it didn't actively fight against me. I would have destroyed its people for that, but I was rather preoccupied. The rebellion led by Rhaeton had been stockpiling weapons and whatever skyships they could get their hands on for years. Suddenly I was faced with an army numbering in the hundreds of thousands, made up of people I thought I was fighting to protect. I was merciless in my tactics, yet even the most brilliant tactician can't win against overwhelming numbers and an order of knights wielding superhuman powers. At one point I even sent an annihilator to destroy the knight's arch-hold, which it was more than capable of achieving. For some reason, however, the ship never reached it. After months of fighting, I was forced to recall what remained of my armies to Hydon itself, where I would make my last stand.